Hello, this is a spontaneous behind the scenes episode. When I was kind of planning out doing this whole podcast thing, I had the question of, what should be the frequency, because sometimes it's good to have seasons and a batch of episodes and then a break, and sometimes it's weekly or it's fortnightly, and we're told to kind of keep consistent with whatever we choose, and that's a good way of doing it. And I wanted to keep some flexibility in there, so I've got lots going on at the moment to get the other episode, the next set of guest episodes ready to go out. I've got 3 recorded at the moment that I need to edit, and a couple more in the diary. I'm desperate to invite some more people on, but I don't want to overwhelm myself with kind of committing to dates just yet, and if they're far in the future, or if I end up doing too short of space of time. And but just know that if you're thinking, why hasn't she asked me yet, you're probably on the list, or you can always put your hand up, but I will probably get to you if you're thinking, oh, why hasn't she asked me yet? Anyway, and not that it's that oversubscribed or overwhelming or in demand. That is kind of, let's go steady. I've only just got 1 episode out, and we're just at the beginning. But it's so the whole structural thing is basically I wanted to be able to be able to bring these regular, nicely edited, hopefully the editing is gonna be good. I have tried my best. It is me doing the production on them at the moment, and I am not a professional on this, but I try to edit them nicely. These little segments that I think are gonna pop up as and when of bonus content, of behind the scenes stuff, they are going to be less kind of curated and polished. It's just me basically sitting at my laptop pressing record. For these ones I'm just doing just where it's just me talking, I'm just doing them on GarageBand, so it's literally just me pressing record, having a bit of an idea of what I want to say, and then just talking to you, really. And so I thought it would be nice just to have space to, essentially there's room in the schedule then for spontaneous stuff to come up. If I hear something really interesting, I can just hop on and record and share it, if it's not to do with a guest episode, if it's just something I think will be interesting. And basically that is what this little segment is. And if this is your first time tuning in, that's amazing. I'm really glad you're here, and obviously have a look around. Hopefully by the time you listen there'll be a few other episodes about, and have a listen to a guest one. But the other thing I wanted to talk about today was basically, I've talked about probably in the intro and stuff to the podcast and the little website page, that this is supposed to bring out stories from not the usual sort of gimmicky rags to riches style stuff, which is kind of what I mean. But I don't mean that you can't have come from a difficulty and overcome it, and we're not going to celebrate it, because obviously we are. I mean when it's kind of commercialized and the narrative is made kind of amplified to sell a message or to sell a product or something like that. And also a lot of things are very soundbite, do this one thing, just follow this thing and you will succeed, and it's all very brilliant marketing capitalism stuff. So when I heard that people were interested in this as well, because I was really thrilled that people were actually interested in this as an idea, bringing in different stories, there's this whole thing about inclusion and accessibility around how do we shape a story when it is about quite a tricky topic, and how do we platform voices that maybe aren't heard that often. And what I mean by that is the people telling the stories, you aren't somebody with a polished show reel of appearances and PR training and loads of podcasts and experience being interviewed and all of this stuff. And or like maybe you are, and that is amazing, and I really welcome, you know, that sort of profile if you are somebody that's like really confident with this stuff, and yeah, we'll still make sure we have an amazing experience, etc. But the point is, if you are somebody who's got a really interesting story, but you're like, actually, I've not done this before, and it seems scary, and it feels like it's out of my comfort zone, and I'm potentially talking about something quite tender, and I want to get it right, and I feel like I've only got one shot to get it right, and that's a lot of pressure, and that can create a sense of like, when you sit down and say, right, we're going to record now, there's just this feeling of like, oh my goodness, you know, yeah, I'm not going to go into like what that feels like because I don't want to kind of trigger, but it's that kind of nervousness, and sometimes nervousness comes into, you know, nice energy that kind of transform it, but sometimes it just makes you feel like on edge, worried about what you're saying, making sure you're covering it, really worried about what you sounded like, and like even ruminating afterwards about was it any good and all that sort of stuff. Like, basically what I'm saying is I am really trying to consider that perspective, that this can be scary, it can be triggering, it can be something that feels like this is quite raw and I don't want to be misrepresented and that sort of thing. And what I want to say to that essentially is just bringing people a little bit behind the scenes on how I am managing this, so that I take that into account and I give people the best chance to feel comfortable and to feel, you know, confident with what they're sharing and how they're sharing it and how they're being held through the process. So a couple of things, essentially when people kind of ask to get involved, or like I reach out to people, we have some dialogue about what it is that they would like to share and the story that is unfolding or that we're going to tell. And I have some prompts which kind of help us up front, like get into so I do lots of work around, you know, money, emotions, and how that feels in business, particularly with people. That's something I do anyway. So it's something that I'm used to kind of, so basically I bring some of that preparation stuff and knowing to this. And so we are basically going through what the story is going to be, like the questions, because some people, it's really helpful if you've almost got not like a full script, but just like, you know, what questions I'm going to ask, we've agreed them, and you've got space to like put your notes and make sure that you have that with you and you feel comfortable with that when we start, you know, doing the episode, and being able to kind of co-create what those questions are. So we cover like knowing what that person's bringing in, the stories and the angles, that I'm asking the right questions that's going to bring that out, which I guess is obvious. It's what you do if you're a good interviewer. I guess that's the whole point. But the bit that kind of comes next then is what I have decided, which probably isn't necessarily the norm, or maybe it is, I'm not probably experienced enough to know what is the norm in this world, but I am creating from the recording. So like everything is edited, so I'm saying to people before we press start, like, we have a good little chat, we have 15-20 minutes just to ease into the space, and I'm asking like, what is there anything you want to particularly include, so that I make sure that like we get to that in the questions, and the, you know, I'm offering people the opportunity to like pause if you want to, because it's live in the sense that we're like pressing record, but it's not going out live, so it's pretty chilled in the sense that you can like, let's have a little break, let's stop, let's start that question again. If you think of something at the end, there's an opportunity to say like, is there anything you haven't covered that you wanted to say, and we can always slot that into an earlier question. And it's just to try and take those barriers down so that we can actually include people that maybe feel like this is something they haven't done before, or there's nerves, or you're worried about how the story's being presented, because I think that's really important. There's a lot of narrative around, like in journalism, which isn't my world at all to be talking about really, but there's this sort of idea that people take your words and twist them into a different framing, or they represent you in a different way, and maybe it's to sensationalize things and for clickbait and all that stuff. And I just think it's really important to like look after the story and make sure that, you know, it's fair to the person telling the story, that they're being looked after in this process. And so what that means is then once we've done the recording, I take our audio conversation, I edit it so we sound great and it's all flowy and lovely, and anything that we've started, you know, chatted in the middle of it, we can cut out if relevant. And I share that then as an audio. There's a choice if you want to do, like, we generally record the video and then I can create some clips. I'm not actually putting it anywhere as a video stream at the moment. Maybe that will come. And then I send to my guest basically a pack with an article. So I create an article from the conversation, so they've got that to review, that goes out as like a blog article, as well as an audio podcast, basically a podcast episode. And then that for the listeners and readers, that means I'm conscious that not everybody likes podcast form. Like, not everyone's a listener. Some people want to read, and sometimes it's about like time you've got and what's available and that sort of stuff as well, and preferences and how you take in information. And I think it's just nice to have that option of like, we've got the audio, let's make a lovely article about it as well. And so I've got that. We've got the clips that we'll use for promotion, because this is obviously about giving people that opportunity to kind of amplify it on social media and that sort of thing, along with the audio. And so that then means, and this is partly why I'm not putting too tight timeframes on things, I want to give people time to have that information, be able to listen to it if they want to suggest any changes, anything to cut out, etc., any different wording on the article or whatever. Obviously not going wildly off what we've talked about, but generally just giving them that sort of confidence then that when this thing goes out, it is, they've had agency around the whole process. And I think that gives a sense of safety. It gives the story the sort of care that it deserves, and it's respectful to people sharing sometimes what can be quite tricky, emotive, joyful as well. You know, there's all the spectrums of it stuff. And it's something that, I find it's important, and it might slow things down sometimes. It might take a bit longer. It means that maybe I won't get episodes out as quickly as I'd hoped. That's partly because it's my first time doing it all as well. But because we're going to have like, you know, some pop-up like extra content, bonus stuff behind the scenes, like me talking, and to be honest, it's all good, isn't it? Like, it is what it is. And this is I'm planning on getting like quite a succession of things out soon, so there should be a good selection of things to listen to. But do obviously do the thing where you follow the show or whatever in your wherever you get your podcast from, so that you hear or you get notified when the next episodes come out. I think that was it for now. I just wanted to do like a little bit of a segment of like talking to you, explaining the process in case you're thinking about being a guest, or you're just wondering like how it works, or what the intentions are behind it. And have a good rest of the day. I think that's all from me, and it was really lovely to spend this time with you.